For centuries, African history has suffered at the hands of Western misrepresentation and academic negligence. And the latest example comes from Harvard professor Suzanne Blier, whose flawed hypothesis suggesting that Organa in the Catalan Atlas of 1375 likely refers to Ile Ife has been weaponized by historical revisionists to rewrite Africans' past. Now, I never thought that correcting history would become a war zone, but that is exactly what happened.
If you check that map and you are looking for the word Benin people are foolish, you will never find it in that map. If you check the map and you're looking for the phrase Oba of Benin is an idiot, you will never find such statements in that map. There is nowhere that any insult was passed on Benin. No insult on Benin. Benin Oba is mad. Never, you will find it there. He is crazy. Benin kingdom are idiot. No.
In the year 1375, a powerful kingdom was marked on one of the most significant medieval maps, the Catalan Atlas. And what was this label? Rey de Organa, the king of Organa. But centuries later, a Western historian made a claim that this could refer to Ile Ife, the Yoruba city of modern-day Nigeria. And that claim would ignite controversy, historical distortion, and a battle for the truth. A single name, Organa, a historical mystery. But when I dared to challenge the false claim that Organa referred to Ile Ife, I was not met with scholarly debate. I was met with insults, smears, and accusations of tribalism.
Scholars said this man on this map, one of them is the Ooni of Ife. A Benin person, nothing to do with the map, is crying and coming up to come and explain how that is not true. That is not. Guys, it's called jealousy. It's called witchcraft.
Some self-proclaimed Yoruba historians, online professors, TikTok professors, social media revisionists turned this into a bigoted and tribalistic hand grenade. Instead of focusing on the truth, they called me jealous, saying I am only angry because Benin was not on the map. Isn't that laughable? This was not history, it was war.
Why is that Benin people's brain cannot process that you can do something and then after that do another one? Why? You know, let's say brain on repeat. Benin people are still in the infancy. An infant is saying, I am a selfish being. Everything in the world belongs to me. You must do what I want. That's an infant thinking. That's the way, in my opinion, Benin people reason.
But the truth is not about tribes. The truth is about historical integrity. And that's why I refused to back down. I refused to cower despite all the attacks. What if this claim was completely wrong? What if Organa had nothing whatsoever to do with Ife? And what if a Western scholar's negligence helped rewrite African history? However, undeniable historical evidence proves that Professor Blier's claim was not just weak, it was completely false. This isn't just about one map, it's about multiple maps. Because long before the Catalan Atlas of 1375, decades before the Catalan Atlas, the Atlas of Angelino Dulcet of 1339 depicted a city labeled Regnum de Organa, featuring a white flag with a green palm tree. And this flag, a white background with a green palm tree, isn't just some random artistic choice. It is a direct historical symbol linked to the Kanem Borno Empire, one of the most powerful African states of the medieval era. It establishes Organa as an identifiable power center decades before the Catalan Atlas was even created. Now, further evidence from the 14th century Book of Knowledge strengthens this connection, stating that the king of Organa has for his device a white flag, a green palm tree, and two keys, as you can see on the screen. Now, these symbols closely align with those associated with the Kanem-Borno Empire, an established medieval African state. But somehow, certain historians ignore all this evidence and still linked Organa to Ile Ife. Here's where it gets even more obvious. The Catalan Atlas itself describes the king of Organa as a Saracen who constantly battles with other Arabs. You see, now this single description destroys the Ile Ife theory, because Ife was neither Saracen nor engaged in conflicts with Arabs. But do you know which empire did engage in constant battles with Arabs? Kanem-Borno. For centuries, Kanem-Borno fought wars against Saharan Arabs, Tuareg raiders, and North African forces. In his book, Seven Myths of Africa in World History, historian David Northrop explicitly states that Organa was the name medieval Europeans used to describe Kanem-Borno. This is not just speculation. This is not me saying it. This is documented history. And if anything proves that Organa was Kanem-Borno, this is it. Try to read that book. So why did Western scholars ignore these clear connections and still try to link Organa to Ife? So Harvard historian Professor Suzanne Blier suggested that Organa likely referred to Ile Ife, but she never provided any concrete evidence, just a possibility. She decided to introduce a completely baseless speculation that Organa could likely refer to Ife. That one sentence was all it took for Wikipedia editors and revisionist historians to rewrite the truth. Suddenly, Organa was Ife, and those who dared to challenge it, like me, those who dare challenge it, were attacked, insulted, abused, and called tribalistic.
Does it make you feel very tiny like an ant? Of course, I know, yes, it makes you feel tiny. The fact that scholars have said it settles it.
As a history researcher myself, I decided to take my curiosity to Professor Suzanne Blier, because the notion, the hypothesis that Organa refers to Ile Ife was based on her work. So I decided to get in touch with her for her to clarify how she came about the conclusion that Organa refers to Ile Ife. And when confronted, Blier refused to take responsibility, claiming that scholars are not responsible for how their work is misused. So she accepted that her work was misused. But is that really true? Do scholars not have a duty to clarify when their work is misused? Or is this just another example of Western academics carelessly rewriting African history? During my research and debates on this issue, some Yoruba revisionists insulted me, accused me, and labeled my efforts as tribalistic. So the fact that I challenged a distortion, does that ipso facto mean that I am tribalistic? Anyways, for what it is worth, this has nothing to do with tribalism. This is about the integrity of African history. And the real question is, should we allow false narrative, false claims to rewrite our past? Or should we seek the truth no matter where it leads us? That is why I have submitted a formal complaint to Harvard University demanding that Blier's claims be reviewed and corrected. You see, like politicians, scholars must also be held accountable for spreading misinformation, whether intentional or carelessly. Africa will not stand silent while its history is rewritten. And now I, melanated, am bringing this fight to you, the audience, because history is not just written in books. It is defended by those who refuse to let lies become truth.